and we'll get going. I know some others will probably pop on here late. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for tuning into our Body Electric weekly webinar. Thank you for the little hiatus last week. My family and I went to Hilton Head, South Carolina, where we go every year. We always say every year that we're going to spend 2 weeks down there, just because by the time we get the toddler down there, 14 hours in the car each way, and then you get settled in and checked in, you feel like you got to turn around, pack up, and leave again. So next year it'll be 2 weeks. But so we had no team call last week, so we've had a little bit of a 2-week break. But I'm excited because I feel like, 2 weeks ago when we met, we talked to you guys a little bit about sort of our shift in focus toward volume, right? Toward really just equipping people with the solution that works best for them, as opposed to always setting people up with a challenge pack. And as you guys know, that webinar was not recorded for public viewing or anything. And I hope you guys can understand, anytime we talk about volume and income, it just puts us into a risky position, even if the disclaimer's there. And for anybody who's aware of kind of everything that went down with Advocare recently and some other MLMs, I didn't want to put myself in a position where I'm talking volume and income on a public YouTube video. So that said, if you were not on that call 2 weeks ago and you've not had a chance to talk to your upline about our sort of new shift in focus toward volume as opposed to Success Club, then it's time for you to schedule a call with your upline and kind of get in the know. So I know for me, like I've set up a couple of different calls that are like group calls, like a few people who missed. I talked to 3 of them the other night, just caught them up on what we talked about 2 weeks ago. But if this feels a little foreign to you, that's why. So you need to reach out to your coach and have that conversation. So what I wanted to do though was I kind of talked about it a little bit 2 weeks ago. And so I wanted to make sure I executed on what I told you, which is I wanted to make sure that we sort of, I'll say, tiptoe into this new focus a little bit. I didn't want to just like throw you guys into the deep end. I wanted to make sure that we sort of got our feet wet and we started to understand volume. So my hope is that, 2 weeks ago I mentioned for you guys to start learning about it a little bit, right? To start looking at what products equal what TV, what products, should I be really focused on in my business, and what kind of benchmarks should I be setting for myself? So from a team perspective, that is something that we are still working out the details for, as far as, helping you guys understand what would be something good to shoot for. Like it was easy with challenge packs because we could be like, hey, shoot for 3 challenge packs per month. And with this shift in focus, it's a little bit different because everything has different team volume. And so it's very, very tricky. So for me personally, I've been focused on just making sure I'm setting people up with the solution that's best for them, not being afraid to offer things like beach bars and Energize and quarterly Beachbody on demand and those types of things, because sometimes that's just what people need, right? They just need the individual components as opposed to a challenge pack. So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. So what I wanted to do tonight is I have 2 sort of topics that I've merged into one, just because I didn't want to wait to talk about the other. So we're talking a little bit about mastering conversations. You guys know that this has been something that our team has talked about a lot. I've led 3 or 4 recorded webinars about mastering conversations. And I've led probably 6 for other teams where I've talked about mastering conversations. So it's sort of an area of strength for me and for our team. But up until 2 weeks ago, right, our mastering conversations looked a lot different because we were really only having conversations thoroughly with people who were interested in or okay with the challenge pack concept. So a lot of us were saying like, oh, if you're not in for the challenge pack, sorry, you can't have access to my group. So now that we are looking more at volume, looking more at helping people with the solution that works best for them, now it just makes a little more sense to reapproach what it means to have successful conversations with people, right? So, and I will tell you that this is brand new for me too. I've been in the business for, you guys know, it'll be 10 years. And I've been treating my business, I've been treating my conversations the same way for literally 7 or 8 of those years. So what's interesting though, is as I started thinking about this and how I wanted to translate this to you guys, I started thinking about how when I first started as a coach, we didn't have challenge packs, right? And there were no promo codes. There were no discounts except for the coach discount. So most people at that time, right, those were the days of Turbo Jam, P90X, Insanity, like the old school Rev Abs, right? And so people would hear about those programs, whether it was through Facebook or, I don't know, MySpace. Was MySpace a thing 10 years ago? Facebook or infomercials even, right? And when they would see me posting about my P90X journey, what were they interested in? P90X, right? And so at that time, I had people coming to me that were interested in fitness almost all the time and very rarely interested in nutrition. And it was my goal to set them up with, at the time, a $120 DVD package like P90X and Shakeology, which was $130. So they were spending $250. And if they wanted to become a coach, they had to pay the $40 coach fee on top of that. It was not waived. So when I started as a coach, I paid $290 for P90X, Shakeology, P90X on DVD, I should say, Shakeology, and to become a coach. So the conversations that I was having though at the time was I was really just making sure that I was setting people up with what it was they came to me for, right? And so if they came to me interested in P90X, I would say 80% of the time at the end of our conversation, they were purchasing P90X. The other 20% of the time, they were buying P90X and Shakeology. Okay, so my focus at that time wasn't on Success Club or wasn't on challenge packs. We didn't have them. So that wasn't my focus. It was just like I knew that they'd get better results if they drank Shakeology along with their fitness program, right? But I wasn't going to force it. It wasn't a requirement. And so that's kind of how I want you guys to be thinking about your conversations now. Like if someone's interested in one thing, like fitness or nutrition or whatever, then I want you to have a conversation based on what that is that they need. But that doesn't mean that you're not also addressing the other components. So you guys know it's fitness, nutrition, and support. That's what Team Beachbody is. That's what coaches do, right? Those three aspects of things. All three of those aspects should be touched on in your conversations still. So if you were to watch any of my recordings before about mastering conversations, you know that we address all three of those things. That is not changing for you as we start to talk about mastering conversations and focusing on volume. The only thing that's going to change is how the sale is closed, right? How that conversation is closed and sort of seed planting. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So I do have a PowerPoint. Hopefully I'm not boring you guys to tears yet. But if you guys have any questions, you can unmute yourself during, or you can just wait till the end and ask questions at the end. The other thing that I wanted to touch on tonight was customer progression. And it'll make sense, I think, once we get to that part of the call tonight, because we're going to be talking about conversations. But because we're going to be having customers come into our challenge groups and come into our realm with just individual products most likely now, as opposed to always a challenge pack, we have to kind of take a look at how we can constantly be introducing them to new products, right? Like what if they come in with Energize and it gives them the jitters, right? Or what if they come in and they love it, but we never tell them about Recover. We never tell them about Shakeology. So for me, my first thought, right, was, well, how do we take care of the people? How do we make sure that the people coming in always have access and always understand what the opportunities are, even if they do just start with one thing? So that's what I want to talk to you guys about tonight, kind of how I'm handling that personally. So all of these things I'm going to share, I'm definitely not the expert on, because everything Success Club that I've been teaching you, I know on the back of my hand, like the back of my hand. I've been doing it for 9.5 years. This I've been doing for 2 weeks. So I am by no means an expert on mastering conversations when it comes to this, but I have had lots of conversations in my career as a coach, and I am still confident in them. So I'm hoping to share with you guys kind of how I'm shifting mine. So I don't know why my button isn't showing. Here, okay. Okay, so we're talking about mastering conversations now a little bit differently than we used to. and customer progression. So a couple quick announcements. You guys know Miracle Morning. Hopefully you're not like living in a closet somewhere. Miracle Morning. Why do I keep calling it Miracle Morning, you guys? Every day I've called it Miracle Morning. Morning Meltdown 100 launches on July 1st. So Jericho actually did a live stream today on the Beachbody Champions page. I think she also did one on the Coach 411 page. She's going to be on the National Wake Up Call next week. She's so darn cute. I love her style. For those of you guys who've tried the preview workout, I've been seeing lots of good reviews from that. So I know you guys are excited about it, but 100 days is no joke. So we're running an info group for that now. I shared the link for the preview workout. That group will have a flash sale when the product launches on July 1st. And then what will happen is people who purchase Morning Meltdown will go into our virtual gym, and there will be a 100-day challenge for Morning Meltdown 100 within the virtual gym. And that will officially kick off on July 29th when the workouts release, okay? So that doesn't mean that the other people in the virtual gym can't still be, they should hopefully still be checking in with their daily workout, even if they're not doing Morning Meltdown. But I think it'll be pretty cool to host that challenge within the virtual gym. So let's dive into mastering conversation. So my primary takeaway for you guys tonight is that even though we're kind of shifting our focus toward volume and moving away from Success Club, and I don't really mean moving away from Success Club. I just mean we're not prioritizing Success Club. We're not prioritizing challenge packs. One constant thing remains, and that is that we help people with the best solution possible for them. So here's what I mean by that. If every person I talk to, if I felt like the challenge pack, right, Shakeology plus a program or plus BOD or whatever was the best solution for them, and then I'm still going to be talking about that challenge pack. Does that make sense? But if I start to feel a little bit of resistance from them about something, or if they're not fully on board with one of the aspects, whether it's fitness or nutrition, then I have to be okay with not pushing the challenge pack. Does that make sense? So we're not necessarily moving away from, we're not saying like, screw you, Success Club, that's a stupid program and it's too much pressure. Like I've been hearing that a lot from just coaches across the board, and that's definitely not what we're after. I mean, I have Success Club 6 this month. It's still in my focus, in my, I can't, at this point I'm at 78 months consecutive of Success Club, so I have a really hard time dropping it. But at the same time, I have approached my conversations like, okay, well, if this person isn't on board with the challenge pack, it's okay. I'm still going to help her get set up. She's still going to come into my challenge group. And turns out there's still people who are rolling with the challenge pack. So I don't want you to like close challenge packs out of your mind. I want you to just know, I want you to approach each individual conversation and each person understanding what it is that they need. Okay. And in some cases, that means seed planting to them the opposing aspect of what they're interested in. If they're interested in P90X, if they're interested in fitness, you seed plant about nutrition, right? And then at some point you guys have the conversation, maybe it's down the road, about nutrition. When I owned a gym, I can tell you that the number one thing that I saw was, I'll tell you two things. Number one, everybody is interested when it comes to changing their health. They think that working out is the solution. Okay, so I would say most people are interested in moving before they're interested in changing their diet. They think if they start moving, they can still have that beer, they can still have that pizza, right? And that's always sort of the first thing. Let me just get moving first. And that's okay sometimes. In some cases, right, we're not in the convincing business. So getting people on board with BOD is a great first step. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't still be seed planting about the nutrition component, right? Because we know that's where the results are going to be. The other thing that I tend to see is that people see something, AKA you doing your lightning bolts from the Morning Meltdown 100 workout, preview workout. But by the way, you've been doing Beachbody programs now for 2 years. They haven't moved in 16 years. They see you doing the lightning bolt. And guess what? They either think, no way in hell, there's no way I can do that. Or what I actually found to be more common was they think they can do that. And so I say that with absolute love, because I would have people come into my classes at the gym and they were just like, they'd seen the infomercials for P90X. They had seen Total Transformation for the home program. They wanted to come in and do P90X live, but they have a totally different perception of their body and their their abilities in their head. So it's up to you. You're not a personal trainer. You're not a nutritionist, but it's still up to you to gauge what's best for them. If they're telling you, like I've had people tell me before, I'm like, how many hours a day do you have to work out? I've had people give me some crazy answers. They're like, probably like 4 hours. And that tells me what? I'm never going to push them to work out 4 hours, but they're really eager to see results if they're telling me that they have 4 hours to work out, right? So I'm not going to be afraid to give them, I'm not going to be like, oh, try Transform 20. I'm going to probably pick something that gets them moving a little bit longer. So it's very, you'll gain experience with this as you go, but when you're having conversations with people, I think you'll start to see sort of what's best for them, really just kind of make it self-evident to you by what they're saying if you're asking the right questions. We're going to talk about what questions to ask here in a minute. So the only difference, like I said, is really in the close. So I broke this down into steps for you guys because that's how I roll. I feel like it's easier to process. But for me, I think, we have to look at what are the typical steps for a potential customer when you're having that conversation. What are the different phases of the conversation? So before we can even talk about whether, how that person is coming to you, if they're coming to you because they're interested, or if you've reached out to them with an invitation, regardless, you have to know, and I literally mean you individually, need to know what your requirements are going to be for your business. So when it comes to your challenge groups, what are you going to include? Like if somebody decides they're going to buy a box of beach bars, do they get access to your challenge group? You need to decide that. I can't decide that for you. Okay. Are you going to give equal access to the person who buys the mega pack with performance and Shakeology and BOD that you do somebody who buys a tub of Energize? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. That's up to you. I guarantee every coach on our team will decide something different. What we've decided for the virtual gym, at least for now, we can always change it, right? Because that's the beauty in entrepreneurship. You can always change what you're doing. But for now, we are going with people must be a BOD subscriber to be a virtual gym member. Doesn't matter if it's quarterly, doesn't matter if it's annually, they have to be a BOD subscriber. So we're treating the virtual gym as a fitness-oriented group. Your individual challenge groups, the requirements you come up with are up to you. What I'm doing personally for my business is I'm giving everybody access to my challenge groups and my support groups. But for the people who buy a challenge pack, right, they are going to gain access to emailed meal plans. So you guys know I'm a huge fan of MailChimp. I have an email marketing, like email marketing plan with MailChimp that I've been using for years. And so my plan is to just simply, I have meal plans, right? The people who purchase the challenge packs from me or the mega bundles, or whatever you want to say, those are the people they're going to go into the same challenge group as Jane, who bought Energize, because I want to support everybody. However, the person who buys the challenge pack, who's going all in on fitness and nutrition and support, they're going to get the meal plans from me. To me, that feels like, at least for now, they've purchased $150, $200 worth of product. They're going all in for results. I want to make sure I give them a little bit of extra value, but that doesn't mean that I want to discount the girl who says, I just want to try Shakeology right now, or just want to try quarterly BOD right now. I want to make sure she gets the support too. What I'm hoping will happen is that by putting all of them into the same environment, even though the one is getting meal plans, I'm hoping that the community that's created there, right, that the people coming in with one product will see the results and the the results and the sort of fanaticism behind the other products. Does that make sense? So they're going to see the group and how the group interacts. So that's just an example, but that's up to you, right? So step one, before you even have a conversation with somebody, is you have to know what your requirements are, because what's the person going to ask you when they want information about your challenge group, right? They're going to be like, well, what does it cost? What does it include? What does it involve, right? So if you don't know that, and you don't know what you're directing the conversation to, then you're going to be kind of lost in that conversation. So that's step one. Step two, as always, even in the old days, this hasn't changed, is to determine the person's pain point. So you need to know why they're interested in your group, what they're looking for in a coach, or what void they need filled. This part has not changed. So 99% of the time, I have people that see my stories or they see my invitation post, and they reach out and say, tell me more about your group, which is what I want them to do, right? But I'll be 100% honest with you. I never respond with info about my group. I always respond with questions. Hey, Jane, I'm so excited that you reached out about my group. I'd love to see if maybe it's a good fit for you. First, let's answer some questions. What would you say is your ultimate goal? If I immediately come back to her and say, yes, you can buy this for $40, or here's a menu of this, or you can do a challenge pack for this. Like if I give her all these options and costs, it's going to throw her off a little bit. And I haven't established her pain point. I don't even know what she wants. If someone would have sold me on the business to make money, I would have never bought into coaching. I didn't come into the business for the money, right? And so you have to understand what somebody is interested in or what void they need filled in order to make the appropriate solution connection. Does that make sense? So the questions, and you can probably, if you were to look through my Facebook Messenger, you would see the 3 most common questions that I ask people are, number 1, what would you say is your ultimate goal? And I'm not afraid to dig deeper. So I ask that question, and sometimes people just give me a quick answer. Like they'll be like, I just want to lose weight. Okay. And I'm not afraid to then say, okay, great. What would losing the weight do for you? Because for them to tell me that they need to lose weight is really just scratching the surface of their pain point. We haven't uncovered the emotional pain point when they just tell me they need to lose weight. Does that make sense? But when they start to tell me, I hate the way I look when I get dressed in the morning, or I hate that I'm on the same medication my parents have been on for years for high blood pressure, or I can't keep up with my kids, or whatever, that's a pain point. And so you need to know that as the coach, just as much as they need to verbalize it so that they understand that this is something they need. Does that make sense? So it goes both ways. It's important for you and it's important for them. My second favorite question is to ask them, tell me more about your current nutrition, or tell me more about your current exercise regimen. Usually those 3 questions, all 3 of those questions I ask, because if they answered me and they say, let's say they want to lose weight, they want to keep up with their kids, I ask them about their current nutrition and they tell me, yeah, I don't eat breakfast, I eat fast food for lunch, whatever. If they start giving me those pieces of where I can start to visualize their life, and I realize that nutrition really is something they need, right? And then they tell me there is no exercise regimen, the first thing I am going to talk to them about is the total package, because I feel like they do need all 3 aspects of it, right? If they tell me, well, I run, right? Like if they tell me like, oh, my current exercise plan, I'm training for a half marathon, I run 4 days a week, I do yoga. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, that doesn't mean BOD is out of the question, but that means I'm now shifting our conversation more to the nutrition, right? Like, okay, how are you fueling yourself for those races? How are you fueling? So you see what I'm getting at here? So all 3 of these questions, these are really just my 3. Usually what I do is I ask these questions pretty much in this order. And then once I have the answers, then I supply information about my group, and the information is then catered to their solution that matches their pain point. Okay, that's step 2. So the ultimate goal of every conversation that you have is to serve them with the most well-rounded solution possible. So obviously our ultimate goal really is to get them moving, to get them somehow focused on their food, right? To fuel themselves properly. Shakeology is always the key, right? And sometimes, like I said, they're not going to be all in on one of those things, and that's okay. And that's where the piece where we're about to talk about customer progression is going to come into play. So step 3, I like to say, read their tone. So this again comes with a little bit of experience as you're talking to people. And for those of you guys who are newer coaches who have not heard me say this before, your potential customers on the other side of that Facebook conversation are absolutely reading your tone. They sense whether or not you're confident in your challenge group and what you do. They are sensing whether or not, you're all in, you're on board, all those things. Like any form of hesitancy or lack of confidence in your message to them, they perceive. It almost gives them a reason to make an excuse. Does that make sense? So this is just sort of a side note. Like if you're saying to them like, yeah, I'm excited about this group, I'm happy to send info, like if you're giving away that you don't really have anybody interested right now, or you're hoping to fill the group with more people, right? Like there's hesitancies there, or it's like, I'm not really sure what our focus is going to be. Like if there's just this sort of like missing piece of like missing confidence is kind of what I keep coming back to. The potential customer feels that. And so the same thing goes for when you're asking them questions, right? Don't be afraid to travel into sort of the emotional territory that is your customer's pain point. So now that does not mean that you are Therapy Thursday Susan. Like you're not a therapist. You're not there to like help them through their life problems. And trust me, as a health and fitness coach, people want to just unload that on you. And you have to be okay with sort of setting the boundaries of that conversation, right? To just being within your wheelhouse. But it's up to you to read their tone. What is it? When you ask them those 3 questions, what's your ultimate goal? What's your current nutrition? What's your current fitness plan? Once you have those answers, you need to look at how they're telling you. Yeah, well, my nutrition kind of LOL, right? Kind of sucks, LOL. My husband's a bad influence on me, haha, right? Like you can sort of like sense those insecurities that come out when they answer you. And that's important for you as the coach, because sometimes it means you have to call that out, or you have to just understand what might be working best for them, what might be the good solution for them. So let's say that you're having a conversation with somebody and she's interested in Ultimate Portion Fix. She's been seeing the recipes that you're posting. She wants to hear more about Fixate. She knows that, moderation and portion control is what she needs in her diet. So let's say she's all in, but then when you start talking to her about fitness and workouts, she seems a little hesitant. Like she's just not totally sure she has the time. She works full time. She's got 16 kids, whatever the case is. And she really just wanted information about your Ultimate Portion Fix program or your Fixate recipes. If you start to get that feeling like you're not going to make a lot of progress talking to her about BOD, don't talk to her about BOD. And that's the beauty in the shift we're making, is that we used to have to feel like we had to sell somebody on both components, right? Or that combo of components in order to get them results. And that's just not the case. So if she's interested in Ultimate Portion Fix, hook that mama up with Ultimate Portion Fix. And you find out in the conversation, she's got 16 kids. Obviously, I'm exaggerating. She's got 16 kids. She works full time. Those kids or that mama probably needs some beach bars in her life, or definitely needs some Energize, right? Don't be afraid to be like, hey, how's your energy level, right? Like I'm going to go ahead and throw Ultimate Portion Fix in your cart. That's going to get you into my group. Before I send the link, I just wanted to make sure, there are a couple other things we can add on. And these are my recommendations for you. Don't be afraid to add those recommendations in the conversation. So my point here, though, is I like to give my potential clients 2 choices. And this is what I've been doing this month since shifting a little bit away from always a challenge pack, is I've been giving them the option to do just the base kit. And I tell them that, like, for example, the Ultimate Portion Fix base kit is going to be this much. It includes basic access to my Ultimate Portion Fix group, or you can go with the Ultimate Portion Fix kit and Shakeology Challenge Pack, which would include the same exact thing, access to the same group, but I will be emailing out already written out meal plans to the people who go with that choice, right? So I'm going to be planting that seed of that. And I give them the 2 options. So far, I would say it's about 50-50, right? I'm at Success Club 6, so I've had 3 different people who, 1 was a coach upgrade, 2 were new customers that went with the full challenge pack. It was a little challenging. Well, I won't say challenging. This month with the sale on the challenge packs made it a little bit more easy, I think, for them to pick challenge pack. But I've had a couple people also choose just the base kit, and that's fine too. So that's basically what I've been doing for people, is I've been sort of breaking it down and giving them 2 options. And then if they go with, regardless of what they go with, based on our conversation that we had, I'm making additional recommendations for them. If they already told me that their energy is really low and they can't find the motivation to work out, I'm going to talk to them about Energize after they tell me whether they're choosing A or B. Does that make sense? Okay. So number 4, I'm going to customize her cart. And this is where using Share a Cart to your advantage is really helpful. There was a national wake-up call that was, I think, this spring maybe, that was really helpful. It was a Kim Fitzpatrick national wake-up call where she talks about how she uses Share a Cart, and even how she talks about Share a Cart in her conversations with people to really sort of move her conversations forward. And this is something that I have been doing for a long time as well. So what I usually do is, once I get someone interested, when I've asked them the questions, I've uncovered their pain point, and then we're at the point where I'm giving them their options. Once they tell me their option and we go over those couple of what we call upshares, right? Like Energize, beach bars, whatever. Once I've talked to them about some things that they could add, I let them know I'm going to actually be able to put together your shopping cart and send it to you for completion, right? So I have had only one, while we were on vacation last week, I had a lady who could not decide. She was super indecisive, and she wanted to do, she wanted to try beach bars. She couldn't pick a flavor. I mean, it was the most never-ending conversation. But I wanted to get her going. And so I said, well, look, I've started your shopping cart. I went ahead and put your beach bars in there, right, with your challenge pack. Here is a menu that I'm going to give you to look over. And you can let me know if there are any additional add-ons that you'd like for me to include. And then I literally sent her the graphic that I posted in the Body Electric team page 2 days ago. There are 2 graphics in there that are menus of choices for people, like visual menu. I haven't been pulling that menu thing out in every conversation. Just when I feel like I have somebody who's in, right? Like they're literally in, they've given me their email, they're in, then I share the menu. If they just want information, I'm not sending them the menu. Does that make sense? I need them to be in before I send them the menu. They need to have their butt in my restaurant before I give them the menu, not just hungry. Okay. All right. So the language I've been using, this is literally something that I copy and pasted. Perfect. I can get you set up and send the order to your email. Remind me your preferred email address and Shakeology flavor preference. Sometimes I'm asking that, right? If they say challenge pack, I'm asking for their Shakeology flavor. Sometimes I'm not asking that. I'm going to send along a menu of some things that you might consider adding to your cart. I know you mentioned being a busy working mom, so I wondered if something like beach bars would make sense for you. Anyway, check this over and let me know if you'd like to add anything or not, and let me know. Then I can get you going. Usually people will look it over and they'll respond to me in real time. And then I generate the share a cart to them, and I say, the order is in your email inbox. Please let me know when you send it through, and I will get you added to the group, which is step number 5. Close the sale and execute on what you promised. It's funny because I hear so many coaches talk about how they generated a share cart and the person went crickets. I can't even think of the last time that has happened to me. I never generate a share cart and then have somebody go missing. Because why? Because I've uncovered their pain point. We've decided what's best for them. They're excited about my group. There's a sense of urgency. And I've closed the sale by telling them, okay, great. The order's in your email. It should look like exactly what we just talked about. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, let me know when you send the order through and I will add you to the virtual gym or whatever. And usually within an hour, they're like, okay, I sent it through. Because you know what they get, you guys? They get an email with their shopping cart already together. Just like Target sends you that like, hey, remember you like these shoes? You know, and you're like, yes, I do, buy, right? The email that they get is already ready for them. All they have to do is just submit it. So it's that easy. So don't let them go crickets. Don't let them go MIA. Like control that conversation. Tell them what you need them to do. Give them that call to action and then execute on it. Okay, so because of the fact that we have more customers coming in on things other than just challenge packs, right? Like some people are just purchasing one-off standalone products. Now we have to kind of put a little bit of focus on product progression. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you guys about tonight with customer progression. This is sort of going to just be a little bit of a touch on, like maybe 5 minutes worth of stuff. And then I'm hoping that as I get more into this myself, I'll have more to share. But this is what I'm doing so far. Okay, so this is the way I see it. I feel like obviously we're going to have people who do come in with challenge packs who have bought into the concept that they need all three aspects to succeed, right? Fitness, nutrition, and support. They're ready to move. They're ready to eat right. They want the support of the group, the meal plans, etc. We're also going to have people who come in with just the fitness. They see my lightning bolt and they're like, I want to do that, right? So they want into my Morning Meltdown 100 challenge group, but they're not totally sold on Shakeology or nutrition. So people who come in with just fitness only. Obviously then we'll have some people who come in with just nutrition only. Maybe they're a climber or a runner or whatever, and they don't want to do Beachbody On Demand, but they do want Shakeology or they do want Ultimate Portion Fix. So the way I see it, we have people coming in those three different tunnels, those three different avenues, right? Full pack, full shebang, nutrition only, fitness only. So the only common denominator that I see with all of those is that every single person that comes in needs our support. And that is the shift that we're making in focus toward volume versus Success Club. Because like I said before, prior to 2 weeks ago, somebody comes in and wants just one of those things, they don't get in our group, right? So this is allowing everybody to have access to the support piece. So, and the other piece of that is, like we've already mentioned, if they come in with just fitness, we know they probably also need nutrition at some point. If they come in with just nutrition, we know that at some point they might be interested in moving, right? So both of those things are important as we talk about this. So this is what I'm planning on doing. And like I said, I'll probably make tweaks as I go. But my plan is if they come in with fitness, so if they come in for Morning Meltdown, I'm putting them into the virtual gym, right? If they buy a challenge pack for Morning Meltdown, they'll also get on my email list to get those weekly meal plans. If they come in with nutrition only, like Ultimate Portion Fix, then they'll go into a challenge group of mine, right? For the month of July, I've decided to run, this is new to me, but I'm running a nutrition group that will be a combination of Ultimate Portion Fix and 2B Mindset. It'll make sense, I promise. And it's geared toward hormone health because that's something that I'm passionate about, that I'm learning about personally. So I'm talking on my social media about hormone health and how I'm going to be adding value to people talking about hormone health in my group. It'll be a nutrition focused group. Does that make sense? So people coming in most likely in July will be women who want in that group. If they come in with a challenge pack, then they would enter the virtual gym or my challenge group and they would receive those weekly meal plans. Hopefully that makes sense. So what I'm doing, I just started this 2 days ago, is I'm creating 3 new email distribution lists in my MailChimp. So don't glaze over yet. We have some recordings for those of you who are newer coaches about setting up a MailChimp account and starting your email marketing. I would tell you that in almost 10 years of coaching. I have built my business solely on my Facebook personal Facebook account and my email marketing. I don't really do Instagram. And by really, I mean, I post pictures of my daughter only. I don't really do Instagram. I don't do any other platform. Facebook, my personal Facebook page, my warm market on Facebook, and my email marketing is how I built my business. So what I've done is I've created 3 different email lists. So let me just start by saying this. I have a monthly newsletter list. It's, I think, around 1,000 people, maybe like 1,500 people that I've built since I started my business 10 years ago. That includes potential customers that I've talked to that weren't ready yet, customers from 10 years ago all the way through brand new customers, right? Like anybody that I've talked to or who has purchased from me is on that list. It's just one mass list. And right now, the way I've been doing it is every single month, right? I send them a monthly newsletter with recipes. I send them a mid-month email blast about my challenge group. And I send them an end of month last call email. So I've been treating all of my customers and potential customers the same up until now. Does that make sense? So for me, that will stay the same. All of my customers and potential customers will continue to still get my email newsletter, my challenge group invitation, etc. But I'm creating 3 separate lists now. My fitness people that come in with fitness, my nutrition people that come in with nutrition, and then the people, of course, who buy a challenge pack who are going to get the meal plans. So I haven't decided. I think at this point that I'm going to do automations, kind of like we have for 2B Mindset and our new coach automation, right? Where people get automatically emailed from that account. The reason why I say this is because I want to make sure that the people that are coming in with one product only are getting the big picture and they're constantly being sort of reminded about that other thing. So the people who are coming in with fitness, let's say they come in with Beachbody On Demand, they're going to go into my fitness list because they came in with fitness. So what's the first thing I'm going to talk to them about? What would be the first thing you would talk to somebody about if they just came in with BOD? For me, performance line, right? They're hearing about energize and hydrate and recover by all the trainers who are talking about it in the workouts. They're on board with the workouts. They might need a little extra energy in their workouts. So for me, talking to them about performance makes total sense. And then a little while later, I might introduce Ultimate Portion Fix. I might talk a little bit about Shakeology. I might start planting seeds about how, hey, if you're loving the way you feel from your workouts, let's really get results because abs are made in the kitchen, right? Let's start talking about your nutrition. Does that make sense? So I'm going to start talking to them about nutritionals because they came in with fitness. If they come in with nutrition, the opposite is also true. Let's say somebody that came in on Ultimate Portion Fix or 2B Mindset, right? I'm going to talk to them about Shakeology, and I'm going to talk to them about incorporating fitness, right? Fixate recipes on Beachbody On Demand, including incorporating meal plans and meal prep into their routine. Does that make sense? So I want to make sure that the person who comes in with just BOD, that's okay. They can. And I'm not going to pressure them into buying a challenge pack. However, I know that as they get going and they start to enjoy the way they feel from working out or whatever, that they're going to see the best results if they get on board with nutrition. So I'm making sure they don't fall through the cracks by including them in these email lists. Does that make sense? Okay. So this is my current plan for that. So, and then this is sort of something that popped in my head last night. Like if I turn it into an automation piece where it's just those emails automatically go out to people in a certain order, then I would probably also include an automatic email probably 3 weeks after they enroll as a customer with a coach upgrade email, right? Like, hey, are you loving your Shakeology? Let's talk about upgrading to a coach account, right? That type of message would most likely get included in the automation. So My goal has been, as I head into the rest of this year, I know Beachbody is currently working on making some adjustments to the Success Club program. They just did a live stream, Carl and Michael, about kind of what they're thinking. I don't know how quickly it's going to take effect. At this point, I'm thinking October, like leadership timeframe, because the online systems are really slow to update. But while Beachbody Corporate is figuring that out, right, we are our own CEOs. And so the fact that we've decided to sort of go this route of making sure we equipped customers with what it is they come in wanting and needing, I think customer progression plays a big role, because I think we have to understand what's going to ultimately get them the best results. Everybody came into my gym almost. I would say 80% of the people that came into my gym wanted to work out. They came in wanting to move. It was a process for me to, I won't say convince, but influence them to address their nutrition. It was weeks of me saying at the end of the workout during the cool down, now you guys don't go blow this on some pizza, right? Hey, Mike, do you want a shake today after that workout? It took all those seed plantings after they came into my gym wanting just fitness. Most of them wound up making a full change with nutrition too. But if they would have come in from the beginning and I would have said, you have to do the shakes, you have to do the nutrition, I would have turned some off, right? And that's kind of what we've been up against, is talking to people about both, and they only want to work out right now. Right? And so what I'm telling you is, let them just work out, but be the voice in their ear and focus on their progression to get them true results. Don't just sell them what they want. Sell them what they want, but keep them in contact with you. Keep seed planting so that you can get them what they need and get them results. So hopefully all of that made sense. One other final tip here is consider opening an ongoing free group or Facebook community surrounding a topic that you're passionate about. This is just a way for you to expand your network, to offer a little bit of free value, to really be sort of broadening your horizons with that. Like I said, I'm venturing into the world of, I made a post this week about hormone health and starting a group with hormone health. I've had close to 40 people, 40 women, reach out to me about wanting to be in that group. I would say 20 of them are already coaches on other teams, which is interesting. And so I, to be honest with you, like Chris and I had a conversation today about whether or not we're going to charge people, because obviously if they're already a coach, right, there's no way to like require a purchase. It's really awkward because they're already a coach under somebody else. And so for me, it's like, okay, well then let's just treat this as I'm just going to be a consultant for them, right? So I'm going to charge a consultant fee for them to be part of my hormone group. For people who are already coaches, why not? Why not serve them too, right? But also be able to help people on a broader scale by running that type of Facebook community. So hormone health is at the top of my mind, running a group for people who are looking to adopt children, who are a little skeptical or who have questions, right? That's on the top of my mind as well. So just areas that I'm interested in. Maybe you're a runner, maybe you're training for a half marathon. Why not start a running group? Right, on Facebook, where you're offering tips about cross training or nutrition or whatever. If you're a single mom, right, why not make a group for single moms, all about making healthy happen as a single mom, right? So there's all kinds of things that you can do. And I've always been somebody who's been against running free groups. But for me, if this is our focus now, I have to think about how I can constantly be bringing people in, how I can constantly be meeting new people, and how I can just equip people with, whether it's the smallest or the biggest thing, with whatever it is they need. So for me, that this is front of mind for me, is starting some form of Facebook community, especially given Facebook's new direction with expanding communities on their platform. So, okay, I'm going to stop it there. I'm sure we'll have lots more to talk about when it comes to customer progression in the coming weeks, but I wanted to make sure that this was a good starting point, a good jump off point for a lot of you guys. Did this make sense? Was it helpful? Does it help you kind of understand how to navigate these conversations with people and handle them once they do commit? Any questions I can answer?
I have a question. So when you're going for the initial invite, you're not like inviting people like, hey, do you want to try a sample of Shakeology? Or you're still inviting to like the full on group. Like you're not changing at all.
Correct.
So one of my questions too is like my thought was going back to all the people that I've already invited in the past. And most of my objections, like 99% of the time, is income. So I was wondering, like, would it be a good idea to go back to all those people and just say, like, hey, I know you couldn't do it before, but like, here's another option for you. I don't know if you have any advice on just kind of going back and following up with people.
Yeah, I would say I'm not sure like how you track or if you track people or whatever, but for me personally, like if I were to go back to people that I've talked to before who had cost as their primary issue, I would look back at each of those conversations and I would look to see like what was their pain point, what was it they were after. Like if they were really after, if they told you that they were a binge eater or emotional eating, emotional eating was their thing, and you guys originally talked about Ultimate Portion Fix, but they didn't want to spend $160 or $180 on an Ultimate Portion Fix and Shakeology challenge pack, right? Then I would go back to that person and say, hey, I know when we last talked, the cost to enter my group was a little steep for you at the time. I'm circling back around because I'm offering a similar group next month, but the cost to enter is actually whatever, like $50 less or $60, whatever it is, for just Ultimate Portion Fix. And just talk to her about Ultimate Portion Fix, right? You guys have already maybe touched on it because you talked about emotional eating, or I'm sorry, I'm confusing 2B. Maybe it's like, portion control or whatever. If you've already talked about whatever her pain point is, you could talk about just the one product that serves that pain point only. And I would address it that way. Does that make sense? If you go back and you're like, man, I didn't know what their pain point was, then I would recircle back to those conversations and try to uncover that first.
That was going to be my next question is, I rarely have people who are like out to me because they saw my post. I'm always reaching out to people demanding that, no, I'm always reaching out to people and saying like, hey, I got a group. Would you want to hear about it? Mm-hmm. And I don't know and if they're like, yeah, then it seems weird to me to be like, well, what's your ultimate goal? I don't know. It just seems like, because they're not reaching out to me and I'm reaching out to them with, do you want to hear about my group? So is there a better question to ask people, like when I'm reaching out to people, to help uncover that pain point? So like one thing I've been saying this recently, like in the past few weeks, I've been asking like, hey, are you looking for something new with fitness this summer? I have a group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and start answering that, but you can interrupt me if you need to. So you don't necessarily have to start, like I understand if you're sending them an invitation, like, and they're like, yeah, tell me more. And you're like, well, what's your goal? Like that makes it sound like, well, then I'll sell you on whatever it is you want to do, right? Instead of asking that, start with one of the other questions, right? So you could even say, well, I run monthly online accountability groups for men and women who are looking to XYZ, like lose weight, crush their habits of emotional eating, whatever it is that you're like addressing in your next group. And then just say, what is your current exercise regimen? I always assume, so that's something that I do in my language. I always assume that people do have an exercise regimen. I want to be assumptive that they do, right? And so if they don't, then they're going to tell me that, or they're going to be like, oh man, I wish I had one. Then we're going to talk about exercise. Then I'm going to ask them, well, what's your current nutrition? I'm still going to ask those types of questions. but maybe not just don't start with the ultimate goal question. I feel like the ultimate goal question for me is like the top of the funnel. So when someone sees my story or my call to action post and they say, tell me more, it's my first question. Does that make sense? It's like the first question on a cosmopolitan quiz. So I'm going to ask them that question first, and then I'm going to kind of, okay, narrow it down. And so with these particular people, you're letting them know, this is what I do. Are you interested in hearing more? They say yes. You say, great. Let me ask you some questions to see if a group like this might be a good fit for you. What are you currently doing for exercise? And start the conversation there.
I was going to say something really quick for Katie. I don't know if it sounds like you do a lot more cold inviting. I don't know who I was listening to, but they'll like, if you get a new follow with somebody like on IG or on Facebook, and then they like respond back or they add you or accept a friend request. I've heard that like they'll just send something quick like, hey, thanks for the ad. I was like making new friends. Are you on a health and fitness journey too? And then that's where you could start the conversation into bringing in something about health, fitness. They say, oh yeah, I love running or something. Then you could say, oh, that's awesome. How's your nutrition? Or if they say, heck no, I, sit on the couch, you could say, how's that going for you? So that's a way to kind of like transition if you're doing the cold side of things versus not knowing the people and them reaching out to you.
Yeah. And I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with sending, a cold invitation or whatever you want to call it, or warm invitation directed toward your group. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with sending invitations to women or whatever about Morning Meltdown 100. And so then you kind of already have a topic to talk about with them. So like if you're talking to let's say climbers, they're already into, I'm just giving this as an example. They're already into fitness in some way. So asking them what's your current fitness is kind of dumb, because you're like, well, I see them at the climbing gym all the time. So that's a stupid question. And now it just feels like I'm selling them. So instead, right, just be like, hey, I thought of you and I wanted to reach out because I'm running a 100 workout challenge in July. And I'm reaching out to some of the most badass women I know who love a good challenge. And it made me instantly think of you, or however you want, what I'm saying? I'm not really good at wording this right now, but word it in that way where it's just like, I thought of you because this is badass. This is a 100-day challenge. I know you're into rock climbing, or I know you're a half marathon runner, or I know you're whatever, like a triathlete, whatever the case is. And I am excited about tackling this 100-day challenge with some of my teammates. And I wanted to know if this would be something you'd like more info on. And I think that by targeting that specifically, then if they're no, they're just going to be like, no, thanks. And then you don't waste your time, and that's okay. You just move on. And if they say, yeah, tell me more, then you could just be like, you could go into it a little bit more. You could just be like, well, we have, Jericho is the trainer behind this program. I'm a huge fan of her. I'll get to hear her speak in Indy in a couple of weeks. The workouts are 30 minutes a day for 100 days. There's a little bit of a mixed martial arts component to them. Let me send you a quick link. And then I would literally just send them, there's a 57-second promo video for Morning Meltdown 100. It talks about the DJ and the music and all that stuff. I would send them the 57-second promo. And if they're like, that looks really cool, or most of the time what they'll do is they'll give you their objection up front, and they'll say, I just don't know if I could do that every day, or I don't know if I have enough space in my apartment or whatever, right? Then, that's going to direct your conversation a little bit. But I think it gives you, instead of starting with the funnel wide open, you're offering the conversation to start here. Does that make sense? You're saying, I'm looking for this. And if they say no, you move on. But I think if you're talking about a cold invitation, why not? Why not just target a program or whatever? You guys know that I don't do cold invitations. I'm not opposed to them. I know that it works for tons and tons and tons of coaches. I feel like I was born and raised in the era of Beachbody coaching when attraction marketing was like the thing, right? And so that's kind of how I built my business up until you can go up there. Sorry, I've got a wake toddler. You can go up. And so I feel like I built my business on like building my brand and establishing the value that I offer in my challenge groups. And I stayed consistent with the month in and month out invitation to that challenge group. And so I think my consistency and my brand allow me to have a few people each month reach out with interest. And so therefore it doesn't mean I don't do invitations, but I usually only invite people that I'm forming with, people that I'm kind of building a relationship with on Messenger, if that makes sense. But I'm not opposed to doing it Katie's way at all. Does that make sense? I think there's no wrong way. But I think if I were to do it, I'm trying to think like if I was Katie and I was doing that, what would I do? And I think I would try to send those more targeted invitations toward specific groups and tell the person why you thought of them and why you thought it would be a perfect fit for them. The more personal you can make it, the less cold invite it is, right? Cool. Okay, well, it sounds like I have a toddler awake upstairs. So I'm gonna, for whatever reason, we were on vacation last week and it started this nightly wake up thing. I'm not really sure what the deal is with that. And when they're 2.5, you can't, it's not like they're just crying like a baby, you know, they're like, Mama, I want my milk. Mama, I have to pee. Like, so you hear what they're saying, you know, so I'm going to have to go see what she needs. But if you guys have any questions about anything we talked about, please let me know. This was recorded. I will post it in the team page tomorrow, most likely. It'll probably be afternoon tomorrow. So tag your coaches in it if you feel like it would help them. But anytime you guys are having conversations with people or someone does reach out with interest or whatever, and you're not sure what to say or how to navigate the conversation, just know that you can reach out to me. You can share it with your upline. You can share it to both of us. You can just take the next step and learn from it. That's what I did for years and years. I just handled those conversations. And sometimes when they didn't go the way I wanted them to, I learned what I could do differently the next time. And that's really the only way you're going to get better. So don't be afraid of having them. Go into each one knowing that you're getting the person equipped with tools that work and a solution that will work for them if they work for it. And don't be afraid to make those connections for people. So, okay. Have a great night, you guys. Thanks so much for your time. I will see you around on the team page, and I'll see some of you guys next week. We'll have one more call. I don't think the 4th of July is next Wednesday. No. So we should be fine. So we'll do a quick call next Wednesday night, probably a power hour, and then we will have Summit. Woohoo! All right, you guys, have a great night.